Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Bob Pompeani, and you saw David Bednar in that open. He's no longer here. We're going to talk about the Pirates at the trade deadline, what they did or didn't do, and also what they do next. But the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown will be the Pittsburgh Steelers 2 weeks into this and facing a preseason game. Coming up to talk about it, Will Graves, Associated Press, Ray Fittipaldo from the Post-Gazette, Chris Mueller from 93.7 The Fan. So, Ray, I want to ask you to start this thing in 2 weeks of camp. What are your biggest takeaways, your observations of what you've seen?
Right now, I want to know if the defense is this good. They're looking like the 1978 Steelers out there. Or is it the Steelers' offense is this bad? They're looking like the 21-22 version of the Steelers with Matt
A lot of choices there that you could have gone with for a bad Steelers offense.
Yeah, exactly. But, I mean, I think this was to be expected with Aaron Rodgers coming in late, Jonnu Smith coming in late, DK Metcalf, a new face added in March. But it's been really stark, the contrast between how good the defense has been and how much the offense has struggled.
I mean, and I've been out there maybe not quite as much as Ray, but that's sort of my sentiment too. I mean, the thing is, like, they're not building for next year. They're not building, like, they're not. It's a one-shot deal with Aaron Rodgers, and I have not seen much, and I mean, Ray if I've missed something, I apologize. I haven't seen much where I go, oh, well, this is why. Like, there was the play to DK at the end of 7 shots, I think maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, where he caught a really nice pass there in the corner of the end zone. But there is not, you know, it's just, you're right. We don't want to make any judgments. It's August 3rd. But you would think with this sense of urgency, if this is his last shot, they would be doing there would be this, like, hey, let's, and there hasn't been any progress even over a couple weeks. And that's tough.
I mean, for me, the biggest story is the guy who's going to be protecting his blind side, who I just continue to wonder about. I mean, I know it's been a little better. It's been incremental. Is Broderick Jones going to be a first-round pick caliber left tackle? Because if he's not, then a lot of this becomes academic with Rodgers, because he's not going to trust what's behind him. He's not going to trust the ability to hold on to the ball and make plays. They seem more confident than I am about Fautanu, because I didn't think he looked great before he went down with an injury, but they've rubber-stamped that, obviously. Jones is the guy that's the story for me. I'm not going to get too worked up yet about the defense being ahead of the offense in camp. That's always how it seems to be across the NFL. Pitchers are always ahead of hitters at spring training. But if Jones isn't who they thought they were drafting, now that he's finally playing the position they drafted him to play, then a lot of this just falls by the wayside, and this one-shot deal becomes a misfire.
And what do you do at that point? Let's say that it doesn't work out, and it's clear and obvious. I don't think that'll be the case, Ray, but if it does, do they move Fautanu over there, or do they try? And I know Darnell Washington seems to be interested in showing that he can play tackle if need be. It would be an emergency, probably not going to happen, but what would be the plan?
I asked Mike Tomlin yesterday about moving Troy Fautanu over, at least just to give him some exposure in practice, and he said, no, we don't want to do that right now. They moved guard Spencer Anderson out there yesterday because some other tackles have injuries, so that's not in the plans right now. I don't think Darnell Washington is in the plans either for 2025, but it was interesting, Will, that when he was asked about it on Saturday, Darnell Washington did acknowledge it's crossed his mind. So I do think that's something to consider.
Yeah, I mean, Darnell, like, he didn't just volunteer. Like, it wasn't one of these things where he's, like, going rogue here. Darnell, he's been around 3 years. We know him a little bit now. He's not a guy that's going to just sort of go off the reservation. Like, Broderick is that guy. Broderick would just sort of say whatever comes to mind. One of the reasons we love Broderick. I mean, I think with Troy, let's remember Troy played left tackle, at Washington, but he had Penix is a left-handed quarterback, so it wasn't like he was protecting his blind side. But I still think, like, from a literally, hey, there's their best edge rushers right across from me. I'm going to, I have to do my job. I think I certainly would put him there before, Spencer Anderson.
Well, I mean, my question is, so if Broderick Jones is just a mediocre player or something this year, so we're all going to pull the ripcord on him, because Dan Moore, a pretty mediocre left tackle in my estimation, who was a 4th-round pick, so not nearly the amount of draft capital and reputational stuff going on there. He got how many years to prove he could do it? Now, Ray, I know you and I have jousted about this. You have a much higher opinion of Dan Moore's work here. And they love Dan because he had the consummate professional. He did all the stuff you're supposed to do. And I know that's part of the reason they're frustrated with Broderick. It's not the same. He's a 1st-round pick finally playing the position. Unless he looks like he's got 3 left feet, I would like to see him at least get the year and then some possibly before we're talking about converting a tight end on the fly and invoking Al Villanueva's name and talking about other guys who are ham and egg type of players getting that spot.
Well, do I win because Dan Moore got an $80
million.
That's
Goes to show you how desperate they are around the NFL.
Bob knows what's up here. That shows how desperate teams
All
are
these
for
teams
guys that
want
can
somebody.
maybe block. I mean, they must have burned all the tape, Dan Moore's people, of him trying to block Myles Garrett before he got that deal.
Before we're too harsh on Broderick, can we just please let it play out a little bit?
I'm with you. I'm totally with you. I'm the guy who has my neck on the line there. I ran around the building like it was the greatest thing ever.
I'm with Ray on this. But to what Chris was saying earlier, when people ask me about the offense, I'm like, the worst case is it sort of looks like 2021 Ben, right? Where Aaron does not want to get hit anymore.
Flinging the ball out.
He does not trust the 5 guys in front of him because they're not doing a great job protecting him. And it is not the dynamic offense that you need to compete with the teams that they say they can compete with. So that is we could sit there because we're not the ones. If Broderick misses an assignment, we're not going to end up in a cast.
And here's the other thing, guys, about
Aaron Rodgers might be like, yo, you know what? I've 21 years. I've taken enough hits. If this guy can't protect me, here, Jalen, you're going to have 87 targets this year.
Guys, here's the other thing we're not talking about with Arthur Smith. Oh, what's he going to do with these? Does he likes to use tight ends, everything else? Oh, he had Derrick Henry. That was what made it tick in Tennessee, and he revitalized Ryan Tannehill. They had Jack Conklin playing right tackle, I think, at one point there. They had dudes on that line. Taylor Lewan was still, I think, at the tail end of his career. Point is, they had guys. They had some people you could trust up front. And I think the Steelers probably feel that way about the interior of their offensive line, but man, on the edges, all this Arthur Smith stuff how is this offense going to shape up?
I
think, could look real bad.
I think they have to, we haven't broached the subject of what playing time is going to look like.
We're going to do that when we come back.
But I think at this point you have to kind of play. You should, Aaron, I'm sorry, man. Look, you've signed, whatever, 5 minutes ago.
You want to have fun this year? Here, more fun, play in the preseason.
Give him a series. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to spoil the next
But I do think that's a very interesting point because they have a lot of guys who've been around a long time. They don't need to play. But since it's a new conglomeration of everybody thrown together quickly, do they have to play at least a little bit in this game and then beyond that? We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about the need for a number 2. And is Terry McLaurin actually a reasonable talking point here in Pittsburgh? We'll get into that. We'll later talk about the Pirates and all the stuff going on with them. That's all coming up next, right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. All right, we're back and talking about playing time because the first preseason game is upon us on Saturday night at Jacksonville. You'll see it right here on KDKA-TV. And so the question is, how much do some of these older players play? Ray, certainly they don't have to play. They know what they're doing. But at the same time, this is a whole new group of people who haven't had a lot of time together. So do you think Mike Tomlin will allow some of these guys or tell them, well, we need to get a series or 2 out of you?
Yeah, listen, I've seen enough from the defense. Jalen Ramsey, TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, they do not need to be on the field in Jacksonville. The interesting point that you're talking about, I think, is Aaron Rodgers. Do you want to see Aaron Rodgers with DK Metcalf, with Jonnu Smith, with all these new weapons around him? Mike is going to talk Thursday. I got a feeling that Aaron will not play, but whenever he does, it better look better than it's looked in the first 2 weeks.
I mean, there's no correlation between what happens, in August and what happens in September. However, from literally a mere confidence standpoint from the group, they can't just start September 7th or 8th in New York and just hit go. This group, I mean, we've seen what's happening.
Especially with the young offensive line, too. I mean, they have to sense.
Outside, Frazier's hasn't had the crispest start to his camp. I mean, even he's the guy that might be Sayamalu, okay, maybe he doesn't have to play. But everybody else, come on, man, you got to get out there.
One point about the offensive line, 14 plays from the 2-yard line today. 7 to begin practice, 7 to end practice. The offense got in the end zone twice. The defense won that drill 12-2.
Ooh.
No movement from the offensive line. It was bad to watch. So, yes, the offensive line definitely has to play.
So normally I would say, don't play your star quarterback that is going to go to the Hall of Fame, but it's not Ben Roethlisberger playing his umpteen millionth season here where he basically is the offense. Screw it. Aaron Rodgers, he says this is the last year most likely. Play him a series. Just if for nothing else, he and Frazier, let's say, start your regular offensive line, start him, just to get a series worth of, hey, I'm going to make my checks. Let's just do the basic rudimentary football stuff that we're going to have to do if we're going to be any good. They can be 3 of the safest play calls in history. a max protect pass that's almost designed to not even be completed, and 2 runs. I don't care. I just want to see them get out there and knock a little bit of rust off when technically there are guys in other jerseys trying to stop them. And I normally would never say that, but these are pretty odd times for the Steelers, so I think we can do things a little bit differently.
Well, I want to ask you about the fact that this is an offense, as Ray said, that didn't score a lot today, and they need help, clearly. But do they need help enough that they engage the Washington Commanders?
Okay, all right. As the resident Commander guy here,
McLaurin, apparently there have been some interest there.
He wants to be he'd be the number 1 in D.C. wherever he would go, and I think this is all a ruse. I think he's going to get paid.
I agree with you.
But like, he's not going to.
And they need him more there than here.
Why would they unless the Steelers going to offer a number 1 for a guy that wants number 1 money when they literally just paid a guy $150 million 4 months ago? Like, from a math standpoint, I just have a hard time computing how the math would work for what Terry McLaurin wants, because he wants number 1 money.
But he's also 30. If he were 26, would you have a different thought?
Look, for me, I put this out there the other day, he needs to take whatever money Washington's willing to give him now, because they don't have to pay Jaden Daniels. And by the time they have to pay Jaden, he might not be part of, like, what team is he going to go to?
The Steelers don't have to play a quarterback either for the next 4 years, probably.
Over the course of this contract than the one that he would find in Washington. But that is also maybe a little homerish of me, I'm not going to lie.
If you're Omar Khan, you have to think about DK Metcalf and his feelings in all of this. So you bring him in, you pay him $150 million. I don't think you want to bring somebody else in like a McLaurin and pay him equal or more money. So that's one aspect of it. And Omar did talk to us the first day of training camp, and he left the door open for some more moves. He wanted to watch what he has now. Calvin Austin is injured. Roman Wilson has showed up a little bit the last couple of days, but nothing consistently. So I would say watch out for a move down the road. Maybe not this week, but
a lesser move.
A lesser
move.
Not a Terry McLaurin.
Alan Lazard's still out there to be traded for.
I mean, isn't Keenan Allen still available too?
No, I think he was going back out to look with the Chargers potentially.
I don't think he signed anything.
Okay,
or
so
maybe
he might be hanging out there. Either way, I'll stand on this one. I had heard through the grapevine before last season that the Steelers were interested in a deal for McLaurin, and it might have been like a blockbuster player-for-player kind of situation, like a you need this, we need that swap. Right. I know this much. They really like the player. You don't go down the road and at least kick the tires and pick up the phone and talk about a trade like that if you don't like the player, and they should. He's a better and more complete receiver than DK Metcalf. No offense to Metcalf. That goes back to what the guys were saying, though. You just paid the guy $150 million. Now you're essentially going to say probably, we're trading for this guy and we probably think he's better than you. So, I would love it because I think Terry McLaurin is one of the most still underrated players in the league. I just don't see how it's really feasible.
No, I agree with you. I don't think it's going to happen here. He'll sign there.
There was some
but I also think, to your point about, they don't have to play a quarterback down there. They're not paying anybody here either. Not next year or the year after probably as well.
I mean, but I will say, if we're going to Zapruder film this, and Are
you doing that because it's Washington, CIA,
well, a little bit, but like,
Virginia.
so Jaden Daniels' mom was at practice yesterday, and McLaurin went over and gave the mom a hug, and then Josh Harris, the owner of the Commanders, is right there. They shake hands. This is not like this. It doesn't look like a Micah Parsons, Jerry Jones situation. I really think a lot of this is smoke and mirrors. Terry's a smart guy. He's been a good soldier for a bad franchise. Now they're finally good. For him to walk away would be to force his way out is a
That is a good point because he's like the most undiva great wide receiver in the league, maybe the number one guy in that department. So I'm inclined to agree with Will that he probably gets paid.
There's always something to talk about in the NFL for sure. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Pirates because even though there's not a lot to talk about, there is a lot to talk about, especially if you're angry with what happened at the trade deadline. We'll get into what Ben Cherington did or didn't do, all coming up next right here on the Showdown. All right, we're back talking about the Pirate trade deadline, which came and went, and so did some players. Nobody came here as far as Major League Bats are concerned. And, Chris, this is a problem. When you have a guy like Paul Skeens on your team, and you know you only have him for a couple of years, probably beyond this year, they're doing nothing to try to help him in any way, shape, or form. And this was an opportunity, maybe not the best one. Maybe offseason is a better way to do it, but they could have done something. Instead, they doubled down on getting another catcher, a whole bunch of guys to help the Greensboro Grasshoppers, and that's it. Your thoughts about what happened?
I mean, who likes what position more? The Steelers trying to find catchers and they're unable to do it, or the Pirates trying to find catchers, or the Steelers trying to find inside off-ball linebackers? I mean, it's just two great tastes that taste great together. I think that this is an embarrassing deadline that they had. Skeens, in some of his quotes lately, starts to becoming hip to that. Like, he's starting to nudge in the direction of putting pressure on them. They have talked ad infinitum about how urgently they need to win. From the owner to the GM and everybody in between, it's urgent, urgent, urgent. We urgently need to compete. Nothing they do says that they urgently feel the need to do any of those things. And that is how you erode public trust, by making deals where apparently they could have had Eduardo Tate from the Phillies. It sounds like he was there for the taking in the Bednar deal. And here's Ben Cherington basically saying, bro, trust me, I know what the return should be. Rafael Flores is our guy, and he's closer to the major leagues. It was as disheartening a deadline day as I can remember seeing. Like, this is probably how people would have reacted if Twitter had been around when Matt Morris got traded for.
I was on the call with Ben on Thursday night after the deadline, and he admitted a couple of things, which was, like, he said the quiet part out loud maybe as clearly as he can, because he speaks in these long bromides. He does. They had a top 75 prospect offered to them in one of the deals, and instead for Bednar, and he took more players. It was literally just, I need more. I don't care about the quality as much as I need just quantity of young players. And then he said, basically we're going to continue to rely on young, unproven players to sort of fill in the gaps. We asked about free agency. He was evasive. What free agent is going to want to come, that's in their prime, is going to want to come here and play?
I'll answer that for you, Will. Not
right.
one.
So they have to trade for somebody, but then who are you going to trade? The part for me, though, and I caught some of Chris's show on Friday. I think it was Friday. And Pony lost his mind talking to some caller.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was like, they're screaming at each other like.
I enjoyed.
I've been here 14 years. Why are fans upset? Why are you surprised? Like, I understand the passion, but at some point, it's like a friend. If you have a friend that's in a bad relationship, at some point you want to go, look, maybe you just got to, let them walk. I understand if you're born into this.
It's only because
you're from here. I get it, but like, as a fan, maybe it's time to just say, you know what, enough, and actually I have a good friend of mine that I go to church with. She hates them every week. Well, what's their problem? And then I'm not going to watch them, and then she watches them, and then she tweets about them, and she's upset.
I want to ask you this.
Break it off.
This is a quote that Ben Cherington had. We will never trade a player to save money. Now, I looked at what happened and tell me if I'm wrong, it's all salary dump, especially to keep Brian Hayes. To me, Bailey Falter, even though that's only $2.2 million, but it represented a guy who was going to get some money in arbitration, and they didn't want to deal with him.
I mean, based on what they did, they could have done nothing, and it would have been better than what they did. Your point about getting single-A prospects or guys who aren't even to double-A yet. I mean, you have Skeens, but you're still planning now for 3 and 4 years down the road where potentially he's not going to.
Right, but in the one time, and Ray, the one time because I'll continue to tell you this, Will. You said it was a top 75 guy. I heard from multiple people it was Eduardo Tate, a catching prospect from the Phillies who went to the Twins in that deal. They did that with all these other trades, Ray, like getting all these down-the-line guys. But in that case, they decided, oh, no, we're not going to take that 19-year-old catcher. We'll get the guy who's way lower ceiling. It's just, come on.
None of it makes any sense.
None of it makes sense.
By the way, to your point about the salary dump, I got a text from somebody in the organization after the key trade was made and said the money's about even, and Rodgers helps our bullpen right now.
By the way, the Hayes trade might be the best trade they made.
I appreciated the note, but I was like, even in the moment, like, for real?
Will, the sad part is that's probably the best actual deal he made based on where Stafura slots into their prospect list. That's
but I'm so tired of talking about prospects.
Of course, we've been doing it since 2010 when the fan came on the air.
More prospects, and we're going to have the prospect of a commercial coming at you right now. We'll be back with more on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. Also in football, Micah Parsons has asked for a trade, just like Terry McLaurin. Dallas and Parsons are at an impasse. So the question is, when will it end, and how does it end, Ray? Your best guess.
I seem to remember Myles Garrett also requesting a trade, and we know.
He took out an ad? He went even further.
That worked out pretty well for
Myles.
Yeah. I think it's going to end the same way it did for Myles, with a huge contract, even better than Myles.
And Jerry cares about the spectacle. Like, we're talking about the Cowboys. We're talking about this. That's what Jerry cares about. He will get paid.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem, though, because he's still the de facto GM, and what he cares about more is being P.T. Barnum, basically. He did a bad job with this, though, like trying to be the ringmaster and, oh, look at this, oh, there's all this drama. And Micah Parsons, by the way, is not a dude who's going to be a shrinking violet saying what he thinks about all of this, but he's 26. He lines up all over the field. There is a case to be made. He's better than T.J. Watt and Myles Garrett if you want to argue some of these points.
He's going to want money to prove that.
He'll want $45 million, and I hate to be boring, he'll get $45 million.
What will Trey Hendrickson get real quick? We'll start with you. He showed up. Now, leverage changes when you do that.
Less than he wanted, I think. Less than he wanted. I think he'll get less than TJ and Myles Garrett is what I think.
Okay.
He should probably get Max Crosby money, probably around $35 million.
Given that the owner in question's Mike Brown, a subscription to the Jelly of the Month Club.
Along with whatever money he's going to get.
The gift that keeps on giving, Bob, all year long.
It is. It never ends. All right. Listen, if you're in the market for a new vehicle, I'm telling you, don't settle for anything less than #1 Cochran's Kia Clearly Better Car Buying Experience. You can enjoy exclusive clear-cut pricing where you get the most competitive offer and you'll get it up front. Take advantage of exceptional lease and finance rates and choose from a lineup of nearly 200 new models. That's right, 200. Experience Clearly Better Car Buying at #1 Cochran Kia. You can do it in-store, online also at cochrankia.com. All right, real quick, Ray, I want to get, and Will, both of you guys, because you've been there, you're camp sleeper, somebody who's really performed well that you didn't expect.
For me, that's probably going to be Will Howard. I can't wait to see him against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
He's going to be the most popular guy again.
He threw a bad interception today to rookie Sebastian Castro, but he's actually been pretty good, and that's the guy I want to see on Saturday.
Kobe Trice, healthy, ready to play.
Okay.
Obi Trice? Corey Trice.
Corey
Real
Trice.
name.
Sorry, my apologies.
Obi
My
Trice,
apologies.
real name, no gimmicks, Will. I'm going to go with Will Howard. He might throw for 560 and 5 touchdowns.
And people will
possibly
love it.
rescue
And
a fan in the
We'll be talking about
stands
him
who
next
trips
week,
and
whether or not
falls.
he should be starting in
That's
the
right,
following.
exactly.
That's going to do it for us. Thanks for joining us here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. We'll see you again next Sunday night. And tune in on Saturday for the Steelers and Jaguars right here on KDKA.
Shout out Wanda.